It is. So let's get to AI Day. How did you like AI Day?
I think we should ask Gary first, because Gary's opinion and mine I'm almost sure will be different.
Look, I think
so too.
you have to believe in hope here that because they were able to take a car and get it to almost self-drive, they should be able to get a robot to do more than just
to make burgers,
than just walk and wave, which is all it could do. And look, they started from scratch, 10, 12 months ago. So look, I'm a believer that they will get much further along. And given the portability of the technology from, self-driving cars to robots, I think they'll make a good robot. I just don't know what it's going to look like. And if I'm an institutional investor, I'm not putting it into my valuation model for Tesla until you show me that it works. So it's a similar idea to with robotaxi. If it doesn't fully work, meaning I can't curl up into the back seat of a car and read a book while the car is driving itself, I can't put a valuation on robotaxi until I see that this thing actually can do more than, walk a couple steps and wave. I can't put additional valuation. Do I believe they'll get somewhere in 3 to 5 years? Absolutely. They'll make it much better. It'll be useful. As Elon said, the latency will be improved. The dexterity will be improved. And at that point, it'll be a useful robot, and I'm sure it'll be worth something. But today, I can't put a valuation on it because I'd be making up numbers. I'd just be, choosing.
I'm going to make one up for you.
Go ahead. Do it.
Go ahead.
250 billion. So I came up with
250 billion. What?
Because you told me to make up a number. So if Tesla's worth about $1 trillion today, in my mind, okay, and Tesla produces, let's say, 2 million cars a year run rate in its current capability, okay, and then you extrapolate out, like maybe they could make maybe a couple 100,000 robots a year in the next 5 or 10 years. Couple 100,000 a year.
And what about the demand side, which is more important?
I think the demand side will be unlimited because
it's just wave and walk.
Well, I would be happy.
You can water plants.
Yeah. No, think about it from McDonald's. So in California, they just passed a law that said if you work at a fast food restaurant, minimum wage is now $22 an hour. And McDonald's is like, you're insane. Like, how are we going to run a McDonald's? We're just going to buy robots. And so if you look at an assembly line, actually I watched a YouTube video about how to make a burger at McDonald's. My kid was watching this garbage, and I noticed right away that a robot could easily replace probably 50% of McDonald's workers. So when you think about the efficiency of having a robot making burgers in the back versus humans, it's like day and night. McDonald's would put their first order in for 20,000 for sure.
But that's for sure. You're thinking about it versus there's no proof it can do it.
It will be able to do it.
But what about the robotaxi?
I'll tell you why. Because the robotaxi is super hard. And I think what they figured out was that they started with the hardest goal. The hardest goal you could imagine is driving back to your hotel in Santa Monica right now, okay, sober. And then, you think out and you go, cutting meat is easy.
You're right.
It's
about
easy.
that.
It is. Ironing, cleaning.
Most things are easy. Right. And I think they realized the opposite. Why are we solving the hardest thing first when we could actually solve this now because we've already built technology that almost works?
So how do you
we have the brain. We have the brain now.
I figure if they can really make a product out of this, it will sell, and they will sell several 100,000 of them a year in the first couple of years. And then if they're, let's say, more like $50,000 each is what I'm thinking, there's substantial revenue there. You can do all the math. You're the math guy.
Farzad, you did a spreadsheet about, what people want to do with this. Tell us.
So you got a valuation on it.
I did
assume it's going to work, and you're going to have to assume that
nobody
else has done the same thing. You're assuming you're from a production side, you're saying they can produce it.
Yep.
But you're assuming that A, there's going to be demand for this, and B, nobody else is going to be able to do what Tesla's doing.
Yep. I'm assuming all of that. That is correct.
Well, that may be true, but I want to see that first.
I get you. That's the difference between me and you. I believe you want to see. I get that. I've done this with Steve Jobs, and I'm doing it with Elon. Whatever they see, I don't believe I see as clearly. Okay. They're here, and every time thought I knew what was next, I was wrong. And so I just think he's further along with this than we fully get. And I believe.
if I can throw in my 2 cents here. So the thing that really strikes me, so the topic around the bot has certain use cases that are objectively much easier than driving, I think rings very true to me. So one that seems like an extremely low hanging fruit is moving things from point A to point B, right? So when I worked in a warehouse setting, you know, just picking, staging product, loading trucks, and UPS and FedEx, you think about how much of the economy. Yeah, exactly. So these things seem to be extremely quote unquote simple things to solve from the perspective of building a bot, especially if you've already invested a lot of money in the compute power and the infrastructure. You got the Dojo chip, and I get it. A lot of these use cases still haven't been. You got everything, right? Cameras, you got everything you need. And you think about the material costs.
This was easier. I think they just realized this was actually easier than what they're trying to do.
You're right.
Yeah. But I'll tell you the thing that really caught me about the whole thing. Look at the way they described how they would build the robot. See, this is what convinced me. Not all this fancy tech. Was the way that I think they said they broke down into 27 main functions of like body movement. And, you know, that's why I've been saying like the robot will never be able to play guitar because it's just too hard. And so if you think about, you know, like moving in certain simple, like directional, and then use like manufacturing, I believe they can manufacture these things with their manufacturing capabilities and that it would have this extra strength and ability. But when you think about driving today, humans all over America will die driving and there'll be lots of accidents. So even with all of our training and traffic things and skills and driver assist, a lot of people are going to die today driving. And so even humans with 50 or 20 or 30 years of practice still die every day on the road. So this is a very, very challenging goal to drive flawlessly through a major city. And so I just think robots are easy compared to this.
I agree.
I have a question for Gary. Gary, within this context, if Tesla gets closer to solving full self-driving and they get to a point where it appears like they're, call it 99% of the way there and the finish line is obvious, do you think that gives you an ability to then model the bot, or do you need to see something else? I'm just curious to see it from your approach and how you would tackle that. And if FSD completion would in any way persuade you to think about the bot in the future.
Look, I think Russ is right. Driving, because it involves so many different, senses and judgments
and variables.
And you're relying on other people to drive correctly. If that's a hard thing to accomplish. And so I'm more cynical, I think, about that. And look, everybody's working on it, and it's back to competition is, also trying to do the same thing. And some are at different levels and they're doing it from a different strategy. Some are geofencing it in one area and then they'll expand it to other areas. Whereas, Tesla's trying to do it, across the whole country at once or across the whole world at once. So yeah, if they can get a robo-taxi type product in place where, again, I can climb in the back seat and go to sleep and let the car drive it myself, then I think I'd be
Would you go to sleep in a regular taxi?
Yeah.
I wouldn't. I was scared to death with a regular taxi driver,
Well, especially here in LA, I guess, because
that's what I'm saying about how the standard is so much higher for a robo-taxi than like a regular taxi. Because I can tell you, if you go today, if you just, and I doubt you'll order a regular taxi, by the way.
A regular taxi here, by the way.
Right. That's true. But like, if you get in a regular taxi in LA, there's no way you feel comfortable with that driver.
Who's driving that taxi?
Yeah, right. Well, he's a guy who just came from Moscow yesterday. He didn't want to serve, and now he's an Uber driver making $42 an hour in LA.
To your question, would I believe? Again, it's the demand side is definitely there. I believe that there's demand for these type robots. What I don't know enough about is, who else is doing what, because I haven't really studied
in the robot business.
Yeah, and who's in front of? I mean, everybody talked about Boston Dynamics. Boston Dynamics is 30 years ahead of them. And their robots are, more about,
dancing dogs. That's all I think of.
And, I've seen they carry stuff, but I don't.
You mean they've been doing it for 30 years, not 30 years ahead of them, because what they're presenting is not at all the same reproducible product at large scale,
No.
at an ideal weight, at an ideal articulation with a brain, right? Because Boston Dynamic is programmed to do that dance. I mean, they do it well. I love the music, but that's it.
I get it. But look, it was
Totally
it
different
was very
approach.
humorous watching Twitter last night, and everybody's saying, "Oh, the stock's going to go up tomorrow because the numbers, you can explain it away as this logistics issue." And boy, AI Day was super. And I and several others saying, "No, there's no way the stock's going to go down." I think it was going to go down 8%. So the market is as skeptical as me. And look, what I try to do is I try to give you my own opinions, but I try to tell you how the street is going to react to something. And I'm telling you, the street is going to be as skeptical about robots as they are about robotaxi. That doesn't mean they're skeptical about FSD. FSD, it's a driver assist tool. People are paying $15,000. There's about an 8% take rate. You build it into your model. It's worth a lot of money. I just don't know how to model a robot that I can't even see what it does yet. And that's what the average institution
I spent a lot of time reading history, and I've been focused on different areas recently.
You just said you don't like math.
No, I do like math.
Oh, you don't like numbers.
I don't
Especially when Gary does it for you.
Oh, you don't like analysts.
Yeah, I don't like analysts. Math is fine. It's the analysts who do it. No.
Okay, sorry.
Hey, the analysts were right this quarter on the production numbers. No, and I've been studying the history of California from like 1850 to the present, and then recently I've moved into the frontiers and sort of America between like 1800 and 1900. And let me tell you, okay, everybody was skeptical of everything, every step of innovation in this country from day one. If anything that defines America is risk-taking and skepticism, okay? Because if you were dumb enough to cross the Appalachian Mountains in like 1790, okay, there was basically everybody wanted to kill you, and it was a horrible idea. But Daniel Boone did it anyways, okay? And boy, this was the worst. I mean, it was like the worst thing ever living in Boonesville and I think it was Kentucky. And it's like Kentucky was like,
got to drink every day though.
They didn't even have that then. They didn't even have anything. It had nothing. Okay. So every time that we've had massive innovation in this country, and this is what makes America great, is our innovation and technology. There's no question. That's why we're invested in it. That's why you have a future fund. I have my fund to invest in these technologies. Elon Musk represents, I think, the greatest entrepreneurialism that America is, because that skepticism exists is what makes me believe that we're accomplishing amazing things. So all amazing things that we've done in American history were incredibly difficult, and tons of people failed, and many died, and most didn't believe possible.
Well, I'm not skeptical at all that robots can be used to replace humans in a lot of basic functions. I believe that. My question is, can Tesla from a 12-month start catch up with everybody else who's been working on it for years?
Well, they did pretty good in 12 months.
Yeah, sure. Well, the robot waves and it walks.
Yeah, well, that's something.
Okay,
now let me play devil's advocate. Let me play devil's advocate. Will they come, the analysts and especially the less Tesla-loving analysts, and say there will be so much R&D money from Tesla spent on the bot, and with no promise to make money out of it? And my second question is, did you think the 20,000 Elon mentioned are purchasing price or cost to manufacture?
I thought it was a purchasing price, but look, if he can get the price down to $20,000, people will buy it, and look, people will. Somebody said you just buy a Toyota and you buy a bot and you get the bot to drive your Toyota.
Right.
Okay. So 20,000 is a great price if he can get the cost down. I'm not that concerned about him making money on the bots. I just want to see what it can do. And so back to your question, do you have a robot, one for McDonald's doing work there, and one for a normal factory doing work there, and one for the rich person's, garden, housekeeping, whatever? Do you have lots of different robots, or do you have one robot that can do everything?
I thought it was like
different software apps.
Right.
You buy for a monthly subscription to the services you want to have loaded up.
Yeah. So you load up dishwashing or cracking rocks open or whatever.
Making French.
There's no doubt in my mind that you will have robots doing that within a few years. I guess the question is Tesla going to be the only one who's doing that? Back to your number.
The only one, probably not.
Well, Well, but that's kind of what you're saying. If you're putting a $250 billion valuation on, if you sell, just do the math like you did
I think they'll
before.
be the only one
If-
in
if-
scale.
If you had 100,000 at 50,000, okay, and that 250 billion would be like 50 times sales.
Right.
That number.
Right.
So that's assuming that nobody else is able to do it except Tesla.
Okay.
Okay, so Gary, who can manufacture like them? Who can manufacture so quickly, so well, a car or a robot or something else?
The only chance would be Japanese companies.
I don't
There
know.
you go.
I don't know.
Maybe
I haven't
German
studied it.
companies.
I would love to see others' products and see what they do today. And again, I tried to, after I saw AI Day, I tried to read a lot of robotics experts, and look, they were mostly kind of mixed on this. And without pointing to companies that had an advantage versus Tesla, they weren't wowed by the fact that in 12 months this is what they'd accomplished. And maybe they should have been wowed.
I think these
after
people
12
often
months-
are pretty.
Okay, but they're robotics people. These are not like
Yeah.
analysts like me. They're people who do this for a living. So I guess I would like to see more before I say, to your question, would people put it into evaluation? The answer is no until people show what it can do
Yeah.
versus competitors. And you can't do that based on AI Day. You can assume that because Elon's a genius and he did it with EVs, he can do it with robots. That's fine. But I can't, in good conscience, put it into my Tesla valuation until I see that it actually works.
Can't you think of it sort of like an option where it's like, to me, I'm not changing my valuation on it either per se. What I think is this option that if I own Tesla, there's this thing out there that could be massive, and it's massively positive for the company if they succeed. And if they don't succeed, everything else is still great.